She says, "You're not showing me your past, you're showing me mine."
Huh?
Is there a you from the past that has too many teeth that are very sharp?
What the hell are you talking about?
Hi, thank you so much for giving a brand new booktuber a chance. My name is Shelby and welcome to Chevy Reads. I'm a femme lesbian who has been with my wonderful butch wife for almost 13 years now, but we have been married for 5. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to hear more about sapphic books, lesbian books, bisexual books, pansexual books, some asexual books sometimes, but they're always going to be sapphic. Today we're going to be discussing a dark romance novella called Cursed Slumber by Luna Lockhardt. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling.
Wow! If I had a nickel for every time I was doomed by a puppet, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Kind of weird that we've had 2 in a row, but I guess I didn't really realize that the other one was also a Sleeping Beauty retelling. I'm now going to read you the synopsis of the book. I was supposed to wake her, not fall into her nightmare. Aurora Sinclair had been cursed, left in an enchanted sleep for a century. The legends called her a victim, a fragile princess trapped in a prison of endless dreams. Breaking curses was my job, ... Her prince in the form of a demon-fighting woman with one simple mission. One kiss, one moment, one curse broken. Instead, the second my lips touched hers, the world shattered. I didn't wake Aurora. I woke something else. Now I'm trapped inside her nightmare, a twisted, shifting realm of shadows and whispers, where nothing is real except the hunger in her golden eyes and the darkness curling at her fingertips. Aurora wasn't just a girl lost in sleep. She was a queen in her own right, a villain shaped by a century of torment, and she wants retribution. The worst part? I think I want it too. If I was meant to save her, why does it feel so good to fall? One kiss bound me to her forever. Now there's no going back. A dark, spicy, sapphic retelling of Sleeping Beauty, where salvation tastes like sin, and happily ever afters are written in blood. Sorry, I gotta get through this. Perfect for fans of a seductive villainess, a morally gray heroine, dreamscape horror, and gothic fantasy romance with an edge of madness. Okay, I'm gonna start by reading the author trigger warnings to you, and then I will read my trigger warnings to you. Dedication and content warning. For every book out there who wanted a sexy AF woman to swoop in, become obsessed, and fucking dominate them until they owed into unconsciousness, ... This is for you. Trigger warnings. Self-harm / cutting, choking, blood play, obsessed heroine, possessive heroine, general gore, attempted murder, physical assault, knife play, mental illness, hostage, abduction, profanity, CNC, dubcon, public claiming, public orgasm, forced orgasm. I have to edit that out. I would like to warn all of you that there is no CNC in this book. There is some dubcon for sure, but I would also argue that there's a lot of R. We know what it is. YouTube hates the word. There is no CNC. The author did not write any CNC at all. Now I will give you additional trigger warnings. Confinement, rape, self-harm, sexual assault, sexual content, sexual violence, toxic relationship violence, blood, kidnapping, sexual harassment, body horror, cursing, death, murder, fire / fire injury, gaslighting, injury / injury detail. Before we begin, I'm going to give some disclaimers. Number 1, this review is for readers and not for the author or friends or family or stans of the author's work. 2, this review will contain all of the spoilers. I go chapter by chapter through these books. Number 3, I am not bashing sapphic books. We deserve to have amazing sapphic books and mediocre sapphic books, but I am entitled as a lesbian to talk about them in any way that I choose on my channel. Number 4, this book was written by an indie author. We should still support indie authors. Just because I hated this book doesn't mean that you will. I do like to give a recommendation though when it's an indie book. So my recommendation for today is Not in the Plan by Dana Hawkins. It is an adult romance book that I really deeply enjoyed. I can't wait to read more from her. I really did like this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Storygraph. I'm pretty picky about contemporary romance too, so take that as you will. Number 5, this book makes me angry, so if you don't want to see that, get out of here. Get out. This book makes me furious. And number 6, I understand that dark romance is cathartic for some people. I understand that just because you are reading extreme things in media does not mean that you want them to happen in real life. But I do think that there is plenty of room for criticism of dark romance. I actually have like a lot of my own thoughts about dark romance. I could do a video on it if you guys want, but that's like up to you. I still think that there is a fine line between what we should be romanticizing and not, and I think not properly warning your readers about what is in the book book is wrong. If this book had been advertised correctly, even just with the proper trigger warnings, I wouldn't be nearly as mad as I end up being in this video. But it's not consensual non-consent. It's barely dubcon if you squint. It's just assault, and it's not fun. And just because you're a sapphic author writing sapphic work does not mean you get a free pass. There is a very thin line, in my opinion, between romanticizing and condoning something and just writing about it and everyone's supposed to be horrified by it. I think that's what makes dark romance and horror so very different, and it also makes it very concerning to me depending on which work we're talking about. Let's do this! Chapter 1, Belladonna. We start with one of our main characters, who is the butch main character, Belle, going into an abandoned and dilapidated castle. She is there on a mission to wake the princess from her cursed slumber. She really wants the reward money from this job, but this creepy castle is very off-putting to her. We have a banger of a line describing the marble floors as marble floor cracked like ancient skin, only to be followed with just another job, I muttered, the sound of my voice swallowed by the oppressive silence. How can sound be swallowed by oppressive silence? I just don't think it's used in the right way, because if you're making noise and you can hear the noise, then it's not silence, is it? Don't worry, we'll be getting something even worse. I traced my fingers over the worn wallpaper, feeling the pulse of energy beneath the surface. My sleeve pulled back, revealing the edge of my tattoos, ... Black ink crawling over old scars, a reminder of worse times and harder choices. I yanked my sleeve down and pressed forward. Oh look, a tattooed love interest in a dark romance. We should make a bingo card at this point. It's getting ridiculous. Who wants to bet there is another romantic lead who is morally gray and doesn't care about consent and is just fine with assault? Or that there's insta-love and she's just not like other girls? How long until we have bingo, guys? On the way to Princess Aurora's room, Belle sees a painting of her. She thinks to herself that there's something missing from this portrait, a coldness or a hunger. Oh boy, here we go. When she's outside of the room, it feels colder than it should for the summer, like eerily so. The door is covered in thorns and roses, but Belle just yanks open that door anyway. Inside, Aurora's room is perfectly preserved and not touched by the ravages of time. We have multiple spots in the page that describes the air being heavier and thicker. I fear there are only so many times we can mention this in a 105-page novella. Aurora Valora? Wasn't her last name Sinclair in the blurb? Also, Aurora Valora? Really? Okay, whatever. Aurora Valora lay motionless on a massive four-poster bed, the sheets a pristine white that seemed to glow in the dim light. Vines of shadow coiled around her wrists and ankles, writhing slowly, sinking into the silk sheets like living restraints. They weren't physical, I realized with a jolt. They were manifestations of the curse, visible only because of my training and bloodline. Do we ever hear more about this training and bloodline? I don't think so, to be perfectly honest with you. Belle thinks that Aurora is creepy. Not alive, but not dead. Belle wonders what happened to Aurora because the official story might not be true. She thinks that this isn't just made out of spite, but it is confinement. I circled the bed, noting how the shadow vines pulled tighter when I came near, possessive in their grip. My sleeve rode up again, exposing the edge of my tattoos. The black ink seemed to shift under the strange light, the old scars beneath them tingling with remembered pain. The shadow vines twisted toward me, curious, hungry. I yanked my sleeve down again. Not your business, I told them, feeling foolish for addressing a curse directly. But the shadows responded, coiling back as if acknowledging my words. That wasn't normal. Curses weren't sentient, weren't supposed to react directly to anything but their breaking conditions. I dealt with dozens over the years, simple ones that required rituals, complex ones that demanded blood or sacrifice, even the rare hereditary curse that passed from generation to generation. This was something else entirely. We are learning that this curse isn't like other curses. She's just your average manic pixie dream curse, and she's here to change your life. We learn that the family told Belle that traditional methods for getting the curse to break would suffice, i.e. true love's kiss or a kiss. But even though Belle does not want to kiss this girl in a magical coma, she can feel the magic swirling around her, almost affirming that that's what she should do. Belle admits that this isn't how she normally works, and that she usually has many other methods for breaking curses. But sure, we'll trust the family, who are not curse breakers, to tell the curse breaking expert how she should break the curse. Sure thing. Also, I feel like the more I say curse, the less meaning it has. She says, if this goes wrong, I'm doubling my fee before she puckers up and kisses Aurora. I pressed forward, a feather-light touch. Her lips were cold against mine, but not unpleasantly so, ... Like drinking from a mountain stream, shocking but sweet. For a moment, nothing happened, and I felt foolish, kneeling over this sleeping woman in a decaying mansion, playing at fairy tales. Then her lips warmed, the shadow vine snapped tight, the world tilted. Her eyes opened, an icy blue piercing my soul. A gasp tore from my throat as darkness rushed in, drowning everything in ink and fire. The floor dropped away, my body plummeting into nothingness, the wind roaring in my ears. I wasn't in the manor anymore, ... I was falling. Falling through darkness, falling through memory, falling through a century of dreams and nightmares, none of them mine. Uh-oh, it didn't work! Who could have predicted that? Just me. I looked up distorted, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The bed was gone, the manor was gone. Instead, I knelt on the stone floor of what might have once been a castle, ... Walls crumbling, ceiling open to a sky that made no sense. Above me stretched a void of endless black, split by jagged cracks of blinding light. Like someone had taken reality and shattered it with a hammer. I'm highlighting this passage because similarly to the last one I read, it has a simile. Now, you're probably wondering, Shelby, why are you thinking about similes? Because there is an insane, absurd amount of them in this book. The word like is used 173 times in a 105-page book. I am begging this author to use a different literary device. If it is this egregious that I'm noticing, you have fucked up. Poor Belle is now in what I like to call the Shadow Realm.
I hear the Shadow Realm's lovely this time of year. Let's find out if it's true!
She's now in a weird realm where the floor feels like it has a pulse. It's like a beating heart, and where the floor gets like wet and feels like blood. So edgy, so dark. Edgy dark. Behind her, there is a voice saying, "You shouldn't have done that." Belle whips around to see Aurora behind her, dressed in the deepest black. Belle asks where she is. "You're inside my nightmare," she said, voice velvet and knives. Voice velvet and knives? What does this mean? I understand sometimes people say that a voice is velvety, but knives? Velvety means having a smooth appearance or feel or taste, which does not go with sharp. My breath caught. The weight of my weapons pressing against my ribs suddenly felt useless, like bringing a gun to a tsunami. This just feels like a weird way to establish that your world has guns. Kind of weird that she didn't bring a gun then. Belle starts freaking out and is telling herself to wake up. Aurora starts laughing like, "Something I should be afraid of." I think her laughing at your distress in this context could have told us that. You don't have to spell everything out for us. Aurora, to her saying she needs to wake up, is like, "Do you?" Because she just got here and Aurora hasn't even begun to play with her. Aurora can summon shadows and they are surging across the stone toward Belle. How did I not put shadow magic on the dark romance bingo card? I just plumb forgot it because it's usually a romantasy thing. Belle has gone straight into the denial stage of grief and is being like, "This can't be happening. The curse was supposed to break." Aurora knows Belle's name immediately and uses it, which is creepy because Belle did not tell her name. Aurora says, "I am awake, and I'm more awake than I've been in a long time. In a century." While Aurora has been in here for a long time, I personally think she should be in here forever, and they should just throw away the key. The shadows reach Belle and curl around her ankles and are so cold that they burn. This is not helping Belle's freak out. To be fair, if this was happening to me, I'd be losing it too. And even if I wasn't, you know how we roll on this channel, I will defend butches to the grave. Belle asks what Aurora wants. She hates that there's a tremor in her voice because she hunts nightmares. She doesn't get trapped in them. Aurora moves closer and she's so beautiful, it's terrifying. I can't really imagine what that means, but I'll take your word for it. Aurora wants revenge on the person who cursed her, but she also wants Belle, who was brave enough or foolish enough to kiss her awake. Oh yay, insta love! I can forgive it a little more easily in novellas because we don't have as much time to establish things in novellas, but I'm still sick of reading it. Why can't anyone ever have a long drawn out courtship in books anymore? Maybe that's why I love the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast so much. It's because if there's like insta love, it won't work. Belle tells Aurora she was hired to break the curse and not be prisoner of some nightmare. Aurora's like, "Who says you're my prisoner? Maybe you're my guest." But she then goes back to Obsessive Town and says, "Maybe you're my salvation. I'm gonna need you to pump the brakes." The shadows are crawling higher around Belle's waist, and Belle can't move or fight back. Aurora pulls back Belle's sleeves and stares at the scars that have been tattooed over. Please remember that there is a trigger warning for self-harm. I want everybody here to take care of themselves, okay? Please. Aurora's like, you know what it's like to feel pain and to feel trapped. Samesies. She's been trapped in this nightmare for 100 years, and now that Belle's here, the real story can begin. Aurora welcomes her, gives her a ghost of a kiss, which is assault, by the way. Let's be clear. And then she says she's been waiting for her so very long. Belle realizes with absolute certainty that she wasn't sent to wake up Aurora. She was sent to be trapped in the nightmare with her. We then get an art link in the middle of a book of Belle and Aurora kissing in the first scene. I have never seen a link in a book just in the middle of a book like this. And I just have to say that I hate it. Here's the art, by the way, which doesn't even go with the scene we're in. You would think you would put it with the scene that it was meant to be in. There is one other NSFW scene on this author's Patreon. I'm not paying for it because I can't show it on YouTube. If you want to look at it, have at it, but I also don't think we should be supporting this author in any way. Chapter 2, Aurora. Aurora is sure that Belle is going to be different because Belle came with a dagger in silence. Not the not like other girls trope. Can we just have one book without it? Just one. This is a sapphic romance. Why do we have to insert this trope in here? It is a highly misogynistic trope, and it's like a pick-me thing. Why would you have that in a sapphic romance? Aurora reveals that Belle, unlike the others, is still standing, meaning there have been plenty of others who are now dead. I would say that sucks, but if you know what's to come, I say they got out easy. Belle is hopelessly clutching the knife she brought, which apparently won't work in the nightmare. Belle is trying to convince herself that this isn't real. You know, whatever she needs to do to cope, I completely understand. Aurora says, "What is real, Belladonna?" Belle is grasping at straws and is like, "This is a curse." Aurora thinks that a curse is such a small word for what was done to her. Aurora says, "Yet you came to break it and you touched it and you kissed me." Belle has apparently broken the cardinal rule of curse breaking, which is never interact with the curse. I'm not sure why she did that though. There isn't a good reason given except that she was told to, but she's the expert. Why would she do that? But that's kind of what she gets for running around and kissing girls in comas. The dream twisted in response to my rising interest, peeling back the castle walls like melting wax, bleeding into something older, something burned and broken. See, I like some of these descriptions like the melting wax, but there are so many similes in here. Part of me just wants to go and read through all of the similes, but that feels a little bit excessive and cruel. Belle is now having a hard time because the world is shifting. She's grasping at the earth, trying to stay safe. Aurora doesn't move because she wants to see how Belle will handle it. Now who's being excessive and cruel? She reiterates that Belle isn't like the other hunters because the other ones screamed, ran, and begged when the first landscape shift started to happen, but Belle did none of those things. She's adapting. Belle is not staying for that long, and once again we're reiterating that she's so different. Do you think your readers are stupid? Did no one edit this for you? I do not understand this. Aurora says, "You think the curse is something you can just wake up from? Do you know how many times I've tried?" Belle says she knows how curses work. My smile sharpened. "No, Belladonna, you don't. If she did, she would understand ... I wasn't just cursed, I was claimed, transformed, made into something else entirely by hatred and time." I think we're gonna have to take away the word claimed. I'm sick of it. It's in every single dark romance book I've read so far. Come up with something else.
But imagine how tired we are. Imagine how tired we are of it.
Aurora says, "You don't fight like the others." And Bella's like, "Others?" Aurora's like, "The ones who came before you. They screamed mostly." Then the pile of their bodies comes through the woods with their voices whispering in the trees. No thank you. Belle is even more freaked out because there are dozens of hunters' bodies and souls that are just trapped in this nightmare forever. Belle says she knows them because they were in the Hunters Guild before they disappeared. Aurora says that they never left. They're just part of her and the dream now. But Aurora is very excited because Belle is still here. Belle is like, "Why am I still here?" I exhaled slowly, fingers curling at my sides, and for the first time I let myself wonder as I strolled through the room. Why hadn't the nightmare consumed her? Why had it kept her? Why did I keep her? Something about her was different. The way she looked at me, perhaps not as a monster to be slain or a princess to be saved, but as something ... real. The shadows flickered, curling away, exposing a crack in the dream's control, a crack in my own certainty. I don't know, I admitted, and that somehow was more terrifying than anything else. Again, I am begging these authors to stop stealing the same phrases from one another. What is it with dark romance authors and the phrase like keep her? I just read Queen Takes Rose by Katie Robert. Go check out that review if you want, but they said it over and over and over again. Belle says maybe we should find out. Aurora feels foolish in her presence because this is insta-love, and we have to feel something immediately. Do you always stare so intensely at the monsters you hunt? I asked, my voice carrying through the shadows of the Manor's drawing room, where the wallpaper peeled back like dying skin and the floorboards creaked with memories of footsteps' long silence. Belle squared her shoulders. That delicious tension returned to her jawline. You're not a monster, Aurora. No? Then what am I? I moved closer, savoring how her body betrayed her, the subtle step backward, the quickening pulse visible at her throat. A victim, she said, but even she didn't believe that anymore. The curse had been my prison for so long, I'd forgotten where it ended and I began. But something about Belle made me feel like more than the sum of my vengeance. The way she looked at me like I was a puzzle she could solve, a woman she could save. It awakened a hunger in me that had nothing to do with the supernatural force flowing through my veins and everything to do with the ache beneath my ribs. Hey, as a victim of some pretty fucked up stuff, I just gotta tell you, you can be victim and perpetrator. You are a victim because you were cursed for no reason. Or maybe the dark aspect of this book is that you were always shitty and you were always a creep. I guess we'll never know. Belle says this place is getting worse and Aurora says that depends on your perspective. Trigger warning for self-harm remarks. Those black sleeve tattoos covering her arms weren't just art, but armor, hiding scars I could sense beneath the ink. How many times had she cut herself open, trying to feel something real? How many times had she bled to remind herself she was alive? I wanted to make her feel alive in ways her blade never could. I think it's super weird to think about someone else's trauma this way, like their scars and their trauma. But dark, edgy, dark. Aurora runs her hands through Belle's hair, but she didn't pull away, yay. But isn't she still restrained by you? How is she gonna back away? It's just so icky. Your hair, I murmured, feels exactly how I imagined. Her breath hitched. You've imagined touching me? Every second since you arrived. Haven't you imagined touching me too? A flush crept up her neck, and I could taste her desire in the air, ... spiced and sweet and tinged with fear. Not fear of me, but fear of herself, of what she might do if she surrendered. Number one, how many ellipses are we going to have in this goddamn book? But we are trying to interpret what someone else is feeling rather than, oh, I don't know, asking. These authors think that because they know what all of the characters are feeling, that the other character can just be omniscient. That is not how it's supposed to work. We're about to get into dubcon and then go pretty much straight into assault. I feel like you can maybe argue that this first sex scene is dubcon, but I don't think so. I think it's just assault, but we'll talk about it. Aurora kisses Belle. The kiss wasn't gentle. I didn't want gentle. I wanted to consume her, to mark her, to make her remember the taste of me when she closed her eyes at night. Belle's body went rigid against mine, her lips unmoving as shock froze her in place. I could feel her mind racing, trying to reconcile her duty with desire. 1 second passed, then another, her stillness nearly painful in its resistance. Then her hands found my shoulders, fingers digging in as she tried to push me away. We can't, she gasped against my mouth. This isn't, I'm supposed to save me, I finished for her, not breaking the kiss, speaking the words against her lips, or save yourself from me. Her grip tightened, but she wasn't pushing anymore. Her fingers flexed, indecision making her tremble. I felt the exact moment something broke inside her, ... a dam bursting, flooding her with want too powerful to deny. Belle's resistance collapsed. Her hands slid from my shoulders to my waist, then around to the small of my back, pulling me against her with sudden, desperate strength. Her mouth opened under mine, her tongue seeking, demanding. The controlled hunter vanished, replaced by a woman starving for touch. She tasted like fire and regret and possibilities. Okay, we can very clearly see that Belle doesn't really want this, even if her body might end up responding towards the end of that. As we go further into this book, it gets less and less dubcon and more into assault. And it's because Aurora is a character who doesn't care about consent. As someone who likes horror and thrillers as a genre, I don't necessarily have something against dubcon or even assault being written, but a lot of times in dark romance it rubs me the wrong way. And it rubs me the wrong way for 2 reasons. Number one, the authors of dark romance rarely label their trigger warnings properly. We saw this with H.D. Carlton's Haunting Adeline and with Tris 6 Venom by Penelope Douglas. Giving your readers accurate trigger warnings is a way to help your readers protect their mental health, and help them consent to the reading interaction that's about to happen. Number 2, dark romance tends to romanticize the actions of the abuser character. And for us to root for that romance, it pretty much has to. We have to either forget that that character assaulted their partner, or we have to say it's okay because they secretly really liked it. Again, I'm not saying that readers can't separate fiction from reality. I understand that just because you enjoy reading something does not mean that you want it to happen to you. You can understand that consent is very important in real life, read books that contain assault or dubcon in them, and not bring that over into real life and not glorify it in real life. But I do think we need to be critical of what we read and critical of what the author is trying to romanticize or excuse. Because whether you want to acknowledge it or not, fiction does affect reality and vice versa. I think we also can't ignore the way that some readers talk about these characters in reader spaces. It is very rarely demonizing them and talking about what they did wrong, unless it's people who overall don't like the book. Readers can equally romanticize terrible actions, and again, it can affect real life. And one of the things that annoys me is that, like, it can be done. I've seen some dark romances that don't glorify assault, they just are terrible for other reasons. I'm actually very excited to read Collateral Damage by Shossi for October because it's labeled as an erotic thriller. I think that a lot of dark romance should actually be categorized like this, as an erotic thriller instead, but they really want that dark romance money. And it's really sad because I feel like you have a lot of different expectations for horror and thriller than you do for dark romance. That's all I'm saying. They keep kissing until Aurora pulls away. Belle asks why she stopped. Aurora thinks to herself that this isn't about satisfaction, it's about power and control. Aurora wants to see Belle's face when she finally admits what she wants. Belle goes back to the whole I need to break the cursed thought loop, and Aurora is like, but do you really want to do that? Belle says it doesn't matter what I want, and Aurora says it matters to me.
What are you saying? Say it again.
Tupperware?
Say it again. Slow.
Tupperware?
Slow. Very slow. Say the first syllable.
Tub.
Wrong.
We all know this is wrong because of the events that are going to happen. You'll see when we get there, but Aurora does not give one singular what Belle wants. Her eyes snapped to mine, suspicion warring with longing. Why? Because you're mine now, I thought, but didn't say. Because the moment your lips touched mine, the curse found new prey, and no one will own your soul except for me. Instead, I smiled, because no one's ever looked at me the way you do, ... Like I'm more than the curse, like I'm still human underneath it all. A flash of guilt crossed her features. You are human. Am I? I laughed, and somewhere in the house mirrors shattered in response. I stopped being human the day they cursed me, the day they made me into this. Again, I get that this is dark romance and it's a novella. It only has so many pages to convey the plot, but I hate insta-love / obsession. But there was a retelling of Sleeping Beauty that was a novella that was short that I did not hate, and it didn't make me want to pull my hair out. And it was A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. It is barely more pages than this, yet it is done masterfully. It can be done. It can. Belle says that she should go. Aurora says, you should, but you won't. You'd better back up right now. Butch Defender Squad, assemble. The world is shifting again, and Belle's asking what's happening. Aurora says, don't worry about it. Belle says that the whole kissing thing doesn't change anything, and she's still going to free her. Aurora says, don't you understand yet? I'm not the one who needs freeing anymore. Aurora turns and walks down the hall, knowing Belle will follow. She thinks again that Belle is something different and something she wants to keep. No thanks. Aurora won't stop until she completely belongs to her, and she surrenders not just her body but her soul.
Yeah, immediately no. Immediately no. Instantly, I was like, yeah, no. That was my thought. I'm telling you right now. I seen what I needed to see.
Chapter 3, Belladonna. Belle is having a hard time making her way through the terrain with the ground lurching all over the place. I just imagine it's what it used to be like when you tried to walk on a waterbed. Aurora is waiting for her, and Belle can tell she's enjoying this. Aurora extends her hand, but Belle knows that she can't accept it even if she does want to a little bit. She mainly thinks that she shouldn't because of all those people who came here and died before her. She tells Aurora not a chance. The nightmares starts freaking out. The trees start cracking apart and stretching toward the sky. Belle realizes that the nightmare does not like her refusing Aurora.
Yeah, no shit, honey!
Belle grabs one of the pillars to stabilize herself, but then it feels warm and wet, so she jerks back. Aurora is amused and is like, you're fighting a place that isn't bound by rules. I mean, it has to have some rules because you can't leave. The world bends to how you're feeling, and you are not dead after 100 years of being trapped here. So that's at least 3 rules. Just made me think of Harold Hark going, that's 3 jobs. Die in a fire, Nona Decimus. That's not even how you say her last name. It drives me up a wall. The audiobook says her last name that way. Whatever. This is not a Locktoon video. Aurora is stepping toward Belle, and Belle is like, I will find a way out. Every spell has a loophole. Then the world shifts into like a maze. The world overall shifting is pretty boring to me. It's either trying to describe things, but you can't easily imagine what they are because of how needlessly complicated it is written as, or it's boring. Aurora is still watching her, and Belle thinks that her unnatural beauty is the worst part of this because it's a weapon honed over a century of isolation. How? It doesn't feel like her beauty is actually supernatural, so how? It's just something you're either born with or you get plastic surgery. I don't understand this. This book loses me in a ton of places. Aurora taunts her and says, you're so confident. They all were at first. Belle draws her dagger again, probably to like comfort herself or as a reflex at this point. Aurora's like, you don't have to fight it. She says the harder you resist, the deeper you sink in. Belle asks what she suggests then, even though she's angry because Aurora's toying with her. She's just trying to survive, and I really respect her high survival instincts. Aurora closes the distance between them and grazes Belle's wrist. Belle feels pleasure from this. Okay, if that's what gets you going. She jerks back, but it's too late. The nightmare cracks apart and drags her down like a tidal wave. Every simile pushes me closer to the edge. She crashes into stone and she can smell candle smoke in the air. At least Aurora's setting the scene for her. Her dagger is too far away for her to reach it. There is a massive ornate mirror there, but the reflection isn't Belle. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's smiling at her, but she hasn't moved. She stares back at her hollow and unblinking eyes, and her mouth stretches to an angle that it shouldn't. Sign me up for this part because I love freaky mirror horror. Her reflection raises its hand to the surface and starts like pushing its hand up against and then starts pushing through the mirror. Belle is freaking out because she feels like the mirror is showing her something it shouldn't be able to reach. Aurora is behind her waiting. Belle tells the reflection to stop it and get out of her head. The reflection just smiles wider and the teeth are too sharp and like too numerous. Belle forces her gaze away from the mirror and looks at Aurora. She says, you're not showing me your past, you're showing me mine.
Huh?
Is there a you from the past that has too many teeth that are very sharp?
What the hell are you talking about?
Trigger warning, self-harm. Again, the reflection freezes and Belle looks down at herself and she has her dagger and it's dripping with blood and she has the cuts on her arm that are also dripping with blood. I don't know why we had to include this. It just felt like the author felt like she was in a competition with other dark romance authors to see who could be the edgiest. Well, I was an emo in 2009 and you can't out-edge me. Aurora says, very good. Most people don't realize it so quickly. Yeah, probably because it's so vague. What would that mirror image of Belle that was weird have to do with her self-harming? It doesn't make any sense. Belle knows that Aurora is testing her, that she's trying to scare her into running away before she has to tell her the truth. I don't know where you got that from, but go off, I guess. This isn't just a curse, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a weight to the chest. It's feeding off you. You're not just its victim, ... You're its power source. Aurora's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the nightmare. The mirror fractured, a thin crack splitting down the middle. The world around us pulsing like a second heartbeat. I could feel her surprise, a ripple in the fabric of the nightmare itself. The story said a sorceress cursed you for your beauty, condemned you to sleep for eternity, I continued, the pieces fitting together in my mind. But that's not it, is it? The kiss was never meant to wake you. It was meant to keep you asleep. Okay, now I just feel like we're stealing things from Paranorman. I know it's not exact, but I just thought of like the bedtime story not actually being a real solution in Paranorman, but keeping the little girl trapped in the awful space that she was in, and everyone else too. It just makes me feel like how it's a band-aid, not a cure. I don't know. Whatever. They came to rescue a princess to claim a prize. You came to understand the curse. Can we stop with the you're so different, oh woo? I'm so sick of it. We get it. She's the special. You can say it all you want, but if you're not showing me, you're just wasting my time. We could have used the words that you've repeated over and over and all of the unnecessary similes and have written actual character development where those words were. Aurora steps towards Belle and Belle doesn't step back this time. The mirror disappears and in its place there is a painting of Aurora asleep. Aurora tells her that the curse was meant to weaken her and to keep her a sleeping beauty waiting for rescue, but A century is a long time to dream and learn the makeup of nightmares. Belle thinks to herself that Aurora isn't just trapped in a nightmare, but that she is becoming something else entirely.
Yeah, no shit, honey!
Yeah, we got it. You should leave before the door closes, she said, a faint smile touching her lips. But I think you'll be back. You want answers more than you want to put a silver blade through my heart. She was right, damn her. I'd come here to end a curse, to kill a monster. Instead, I'd found something far more complex. A woman trapped between victim and villain, and a curse that had become a source of power rather than imprisonment. I didn't know that what Aurora had become after a century in the nightmare, but I knew I couldn't stop until I understood, even if it meant risking never being able to return to the reality I came from. Are you kidding me? I would be getting the fuck out of here. Why would you stay and help her other than you think she's pretty and she might let you hit? Is the outside world that low on options? Chapter 4, Aurora. Aurora is stoked that Belle realized they're forever bound, and Belle just can't leave the nightmare. It means that she finally knows she's Aurora's. Whatever you say, weirdo. Belle says even if I wanted to, I can't leave. Yeah, how many times do we have to repeat this? The realm is moving around again. Belle is standing there, part defiance, part resignation. I hate this writing. Have I mentioned that? Aurora is advancing and she's savoring each moment of anticipation. You'd think if you cared about anticipation, you would have drawn this out more, but no. Aurora says, you fought well, but it was always going to end this way. Belle is still clutching the dagger and blood still continues to drip from her forearms. Aurora can feel the droplets hitting the ground as intimately as if they were hitting her own skin. Ew. Aurora reaches for her free hand and Belle flinches but doesn't pull away. Aurora thinks this is progress. I think that this is continuing to force physical attention upon someone who doesn't want it. Let me go, she said, but the words lack conviction. We both know that's not what you want. I brushed my thumb across her palm, leaving a smear of wetness. Not anymore. Stop putting words in her mouth. I hate that this author sees no nuance to this situation at all. The author knows something, so Aurora knows something. It's annoying and it's boring. Aurora says that Belle's blood sings to her and then pulls them together. We learn that Aurora is taller this way. We love a short butch. Her blood clung to my fingertips, and when I brushed my thumb across her bottom lip, she went utterly still. The vivid red contrasted beautifully with her skin, marking her, claiming her. Her lips parted slightly, whether in protest or invitation, I couldn't tell. Didn't care. For a suspended moment, we stayed frozen like that. Her blood on her lips, my hand at her throat, our eyes locked in silent communication. Then, as if giving in to something inevitable, she darted her tongue out to taste the blood on her lip. Can someone explain blood play to me? I'm not trying to be a dick and I'm not trying to kink shame. I just personally, I don't see the appeal. Maybe it's because I'm a lesbian and I know how well certain diseases can be transmitted by bodily fluids, but it just always worries me. And I'm not a germaphobe, I just don't want to take that chance. Aurora kisses her again and she feels her resistance, then surrender. Her body surrendering against mine even as her mind continued its futile rebellion. So you admit you know she doesn't want this. See, this is why I don't think we can call this dubcon. This just feels like assault. And if it had been tagged appropriately, I would not be here on the internet griping about it. Belle drops the dagger and without breaking the kiss, Aurora bends down and retrieves it. Can you imagine how awkward this looks? Were they doing shorty got low, low, low while making out so Aurora could get the dagger? What are we doing here? Right after, Aurora breaks the kiss, which made that terrible imagery pointless. Aurora presses the dagger into her own palm and says, you bled for me, I want to bleed for you. Belle is horrified by this and I feel that. But again, the consent is not here in the room with us. It's not even in the same state. Belle says she can't and that she won't hurt her. Aurora says, why not? You came here to kill me, didn't you? When the fuck did she say that? She was just trying to break the curse in a nice way. I don't get where the fuck she got that from. Belle said that was before I understood, before I knew what this really is. Aurora asks what this is and Belle tries to back up. Instead of answering, she tried to pull away to put distance between us. I followed, matching her step for step until her back hit the wall. There had been no wall there moments before, but my realm responded to my needs without conscious thought. I pressed against her, trapping her between the cold stone and my body. The dagger remained between us, the tip now dimpling the fabric over my sternum. You can't hurt me, I said, the truth of it settling over us both. Not really, no one can, not anymore. Please, she whispered. Though whether she was begging me to stop or continue, I couldn't tell. I leaned in, my lips at her ear. You marked yourself for me, I breathed, feeling her shiver at the words. You cut away your nightmare until you returned to me. returned to my reality. I don't take that sacrifice lightly. Did you see the line where she said, I can't tell if she's begging me to stop or continue? This is where you bring out your big girl words and you ask. But Aurora does not care about consent. She just wants to get what she wants. She doesn't want to give Belle the chance to reject her, even though she has been saying the words and doing the things that indicate that she wants her to stop. Belle says she doesn't understand why she feels this way. Aurora says, don't you? Puts her free hand on Belle's throat. She says the curse doesn't make feelings, only reveals them.
Sure, Jan.
Aurora kisses her again and bites her bottom lip until she tastes blood. Belle makes a sound that is not quite protest, not quite pleasure. So you should stop. Aurora pulls back again. Why does this have to go on so long? Why is there so much kissing and not kissing? Why does this book even exist? Belle pricks Aurora's skin near her collarbone with the dagger. There is a single drop of blood. Aurora says, there, was that so hard? It is when you don't fucking want to do it. I hate it here. Aurora catches the blood before it can fall. Belle grabs Aurora's wrist and then their fingers intertwine. So is it like, what do you mean? Or like, what? Whatever. And it's smearing the blood between their palms. Yes, so it can't be this way. So it has to go like this, I guess. Whatever. Belle then leans forward and presses her mouth to the wound she just made. At least she liked some of this, I guess. It's torture for me. This creates a blood bond between them, one made of magic and choice, yay! Aurora tangles her fingers in Belle's hair so hard it hurts. Belle whispers her name. Something inside me broke at the sound. Mine. She was mine in every way that mattered, heart, body, and fractured soul. And I would destroy anyone who tried to take her from me. Who is trying to take her from you? It's just you and her and all of those dead bodies, I guess. Aurora claws the buttons off of Belle's shirt, tired of the barriers. She pushes the shirt down and then runs her fingers along the bra. Look at me, I commanded her, and her eyes snapped open. I want you to see who owns you now. Defiance flashed across her features, a reminder that even bound by the curse, even wanting this, she wouldn't surrender easily. Good. I didn't want easy. I wanted her, all of her, including the fight. It just feels icky. I wish that Belle had been more visibly into this. I think it would have helped the dubcon aspect a little bit, but no, we just have to have possessive, obsessive assault. Aurora has the shadows come and restrain Belle spread eagle against the wall. Belle struggles against the restraints. Again, I do not feel she's into this. Belle asks what she's doing and Aurora says, taking what's mine. I hate it here. Aside from this needing to be labeled as horror instead, the writing is just bad. It was exhausting reading this and then writing the script for this. The shadows slither, not my word choice, under Belle's clothes and dissolve the fabric as they pass. Alright, then shadows can dissolve fabric. Who cares how the magic system works though when we can have terrible, offensive assault scenes though? Belle's naked now. Aurora's appreciating the view. Aurora says, tell me to stop. Tell me you don't want this. Belle's mouth opens and closes, but she doesn't say anything because the curse won't allow her to lie. How does the magic work again? Who knows? That doesn't make it consent, by the way. Aurora gets close to the kitty cat with her mouth and tells Belle to beg. And Belle does. She then gets to it. There are awful things in this scene. I'm just gonna tell you a couple. Everyone's favorite bundle of nerves. I wanted to bury myself in her, coat myself in her scent. You want to be covered in the what now? No fucking thank you. I am a lesbian and I understand the appeal of the smell to a certain extent, but you want to coat yourself in it? That's too much. Aurora edges her and then picks up the dagger. She cuts across her own palm and Aurora says, blood calls to blood, desire to desire, pain to pain. Is this supposed to be sexy? I'm asking for a friend. She then uses the hilt of the dagger as a toy inside of Belle. Yay. This is what you came for, I told her, increasing the pressure. This is what you were always meant for. No, she gasped, but her body contradicted her words, pressing toward the touch, grinding against the end of the handle. Yes, I insist, sliding the hilt inside her with one smooth motion. Her body accepted it eagerly, gripping the intrusion as if it belonged there. Perhaps it did. You were made for me, Belle, made to be mine. She came here to break your curse and get money. You can say whatever you want, but I was there on page 1. You cannot gaslight me into agreeing with you. Aurora demands that she look at her while she reaches the finish line. Aurora sees the last of Belle's resistance crumble. Yay! Lisa's book was free. She screams so loud as she owes that it seems to shake the very foundations of the manor. Be so for real right now. Aurora decides to keep going because she's still corny. Her was mine, ... I needed to feel it beg for more of my touch. I slid the dagger hilt from her body and eased my fingers inside, almost crumbling at the way her cunt eagerly squeezed my fingers. I didn't stop. I couldn't. The hunger that had built over a century of isolation demanded more. I just know that the author felt edgy using the C word twice in one paragraph. Aurora loses count of how many times Belle gets off, 7, 8 more. Aurora only stops after Belle stops using words and her head drops from exhaustion. I just love the checking in for consent here regularly. So romantic. I would give anything to be reading Queen Takes Rose again. Katie Robert, I take back everything I said about you in that review. Aurora releases the shadows and catches Belle before materializing a bedroom around them. She lays Belle in the bed and then she climbs in with her. I'll kill anyone who tries to take you from me, I whispered against her hair, not caring if she heard. The vow was as much for me as for her, ... A promise to protect what was mine, no matter the cost. Friendly reminder, no one has threatened to take her from you. There is no competition. You two are trapped here. Aurora thinks about how she will remember this forever. She then has some weird existential questions. Was this freedom or merely a different kind of prison, one we shared? The questions whispered through my mind, but I pushed them away, unwilling to examine them too closely. In the stillness, as our breathing slowed and synchronized, I felt something shift inside me. The hollow space that had ached for so long seemed less empty, filled with something I hesitated to name. Not love, ... I wasn't capable of that anymore, if I ever had been. But something close, something possessive and protective, and dangerously close to human. I tightened my arms around her sleeping form, feeling the steady rise and fall of her chest against mine. The curse bound us together now. Our blood mingled, our fates intertwined beyond separation. Whatever came next, whatever horrors awaited in this nightmare realm, we would face them together. As I drifted towards sleep, surrounded by the warmth of her body and the cool embrace of shadows, I made another silent vow. I would never let her go. Not for her sake, not for mine, not for anyone's. She was mine now, completely irrevocably mine. And I would burn down worlds before I surrendered her. I think these kinds of books are ruining possessive and jealous behavior for me. And I don't think many people enjoyed it in books to begin with. I think I was one of the few. They're really close to making me hate this forever. Don't ruin this for me. She makes another little, she's making her vow as she falls asleep. And, not even for her sake, we said, right? You're right then, it's not love. Glad we could have this talk. Chapter 5, Belladonna. Belle wakes up screaming from sleep, so we can see she's doing really well after that totally normal, not fucked up sex scene. Nothing to see here. We all get nightmares after perfectly normal sex. She notices that there's something wrong with the nightmare and that it isn't Aurora's doing. Aurora wakes up and says that's new. Belle can see that Aurora feels uncertain about it. I pushed myself up, biting back a groan as pain lanced through my body. Every muscle remembered the nightmare's last assault, a phantom echo of torture that hadn't actually happened to my physical form. That was the cruelty of this place, pain without marks, terror without evidence. I know she's saying the nightmare's last assault, but I don't believe that. And we established already that Aurora overall controls the nightmare. So are we talking about last night? Because if so, you agree it was assault. I hate this book. I fucking hate it. Belle asks Aurora what's happening. Aurora says the nightmare is rejecting something. It's rejecting them. Dun dun dun. Belle remembers the blood mingling, and Aurora says perhaps that was a mistake. Belle says that it wasn't planned, not exactly, but it looked to me like Aurora was just waiting for an excuse. But I had wanted it. Even knowing what she was, knowing the danger, I had craved that connection like a drowning person craves air. I still couldn't explain it, this pull toward her, this inability to walk away that went beyond mere enchantment. I was a hunter. I had encountered supernatural creatures before. I knew how to resist glamours and mind manipulation, but Aurora was different. She was like gravity, a fundamental force I couldn't fight without breaking something essential in myself. See, Belle says that she wanted it, but this is after the fact. I wish that that chapter could have been from Belle's POV. I think it would have helped with like the dub-con aspect a lot more, but we weren't in her head, so it just read like full-on non-con assault, The floor jerks violently and more cracks start spreading across the marble. The world throws Belle sideways. Aurora says her name in warning. Why are you acting like she threw herself? The world is going bananas and the bedroom doesn't exist anymore. It's now like an endless void with floating islands of memories and dreams. If you say so, don't ask me. I just work here. Aurora says this isn't supposed to happen. I thought you controlled the world. I'm so sick of the flip-flopping. It's okay if she's not and she delusionally thought she was in control, but I don't feel like it's addressed enough and I don't feel like that's the case. I had seen Aurora in many forms since stumbling into her trap. The seductress, the victim, the queen, the monster. I had seen her tear men apart with nothing but shadows and whispers. I had watched her rewrite reality with a flick of her wrist. I had felt her remake me from the inside out with just a touch. But I had never seen her afraid until now. When did you see this? It would have been nice if we could have seen some of this, but instead we have to listen to nonsensical world shifts and bad sexual assault. The air grows electric and Aurora whispers she knows. I bet we can guess who that is because there's only one other character named or even mentioned who's prominent in this entire book. The ground is splitting open and now the real world is bleeding through. Aurora grabs Belle with bruising force and pulls her away from the ground, collapsing under her. Aurora hisses at her to move. Belle tries to keep up with her and the air thickens further. Stop describing the air. You're just beating a dead horse.
He's already dead.
Belle realizes that the sorceress isn't just watching anymore, she's coming. Aurora is dragging Belle all over the place, trying to get away from the nightmare breaking all around them. Aurora says the sorceress is using Belle and using their bond against them. How? Is this explained? I can't remember, I guess we'll find out, but I feel like it wasn't. The rift in the nightmare widens, edges curling like petals of a nightmare flower. Number one, stop with the similes. I am begging you, stop. Number two, what is a nightmare flower? Am I supposed to know what that is? A woman steps through the rift and the nightmare bowed. How? Belle can't move her body because it no longer feels like her own. The woman's dress whispered with voices, thousands of them pleading, screaming, begging in languages I didn't recognize but somehow understood. I have to ask if this is literal. I know that I probably have autism, but I just find myself reading some of these books like,
What does it mean? What does it mean?
The sorceress stares at Belle for a little bit. Aurora is rigid next to her, still holding Belle's wrist. The sorceress hadn't just cursed Aurora, she had broken her, and now she was here to finish what she'd started. Didn't we say something similar to this? Am I losing my mind? This woman says, how sweet, you actually thought you could win. Did they? I think they just had some dubiously consensual sex, and that's just me being generous. I don't think that they thought that they won at any point. Aurora literally wondered if this was a new kind of nightmare. Chapter 6, Aurora. For some reason, we get a recap of the sorceress coming through in Aurora's POV. I think we don't need it from both POVs. Do you see how much of this book was wasted and could have been used on character development? Do you see what I mean? I need someone to validate me. It also contradicts because it says that the sorceress ignores Belle when she comes through, and we can't contradict like this. She was literally staring at her before. She says, did you just think I would let you go? And no, I don't think she ever thought that. They at no point thought they could easily get out of this nightmare, and the blood bond would let them do that? What are we doing?
What the hell are you talking about?
Belle moves closer to Aurora, probably to try and protect her. I would never help Aurora. I would be trying to get off of this ride. I needed her to run, to leave me and save herself, but I already knew she wouldn't. The stubborn set of her jaw told me everything. She would die here for me, and that was the one thing I couldn't allow. This directly contradicts what you said when you were lying in bed earlier together. Did anyone proofread this? Did anyone stop and think, hey, didn't she say something completely different? Maybe not even a chapter ago? No? Aurora tells Belle to get behind her, but Belle ignores this. Maybe she's hoping the sorceress will put her out of her misery. Damn, I wish that was me. The sorceress is like, that's cute that you think that you matter, and then slams Belle with magic, sending her flying backward. The sorceress then closes the space between her and Aurora. Honestly, I think they deserve each other. She tells Aurora that she made her and that Aurora is hers. It's crazy that we're supposed to be fine when Aurora is saying and doing similar things, but the sorceress is bad in this context. Make it make sense. Aurora starts fighting back and tries to tear the boundary between their wills. Could we know more about how this supposedly works? Could we know why it's working now, but it wasn't working when it was just her? Nope. The sorceress is a little impressed that Aurora has learned, but says she hasn't learned enough. Belle gets to her feet. That was when I understood. The sorceress had felt our bond unraveling the nightmare. She had sensed the hairline fractures Belle's presence had created in her perfect prison, and she had let it happen. I had played right into her hands. She didn't want to reclaim me. She wanted to end me, and she had found the perfect way to do it. She would kill Belle. How are we making these realizations? I don't see how anything that the sorceress is doing is giving any of this away. I legitimately don't get it. The sorceress flicks her wrist and Belle is being crushed by an invisible fist. Aurora begs her to stop, but we all know Aurora doesn't think that stop means anything. Aurora decides to try with her power to save Belle, and she is able to. The sorceress is like, did you think I wouldn't notice how you bound yourself to her? So careless. The villain is so flat, she's a flat Stanley. I'm so tired of it. I just want to run away. But if I had to know about this book, so do you. Belle is recovering on the ground while the magic is battling it out. She's looking at Aurora with awe. I think she should be worried about other stuff. You can't kill her without killing me, I spat, buying time trying to think. And we both know you're too much of a coward to risk losing what you built. Something flickered across the sorceress's perfect features, not anger, but something colder, more calculated. Her smile returned, a thin curve that didn't reach her eyes. You misunderstand me, love, she whispered. She raised her hands, fingers stretching toward the sky. The nightmare trembled in response, as if it recognized her as its true master. Black veins spread across the walls, the ceiling, the floor, ... Everything the nightmare had built to contain me. I don't need to kill you. She has spent all of this time keeping you hostage. I'm sure she can figure out how to separate the blood bond so she can just get rid of Belle. Even though the villain is poorly written, I still feel like if she wanted Belle dead, Belle would just be dead. Belle stumbles back up, and I think, honey, maybe you need to stay down. She stands in front of Aurora, and I cannot fathom why. She's a hot butch. She deserves better than this. The sorceress says again that she doesn't need to kill her. She just needs to bury her so deep that she'll break for good because she won't ever see her pet again. I kind of agree with the pet assessment. She does not treat Belle like a human at all. The nightmare is splitting some more ground is vanishing. Why do we have to keep repeating ourselves is beyond me. Belle grabs Aurora's wrist, but Aurora knows that they're losing. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. I don't think it would take much. Aurora thinks that the sorceress has been planning this for longer than Belle has even been alive. I don't see how that can be true. I think she's just better at thinking on the fly than you. Belle is still trying to hang on to Aurora, but Aurora feels hope for the first time in decades. Why? You're losing. The sorceress says goodbye, my love, and then the void takes them. They're still hanging on to each other, but Aurora knows that this isn't the end. It's the beginning of a different kind of nightmare. One the sorceress didn't mean to create and she can't control. Chapter 7, Belladonna. The nightmare isn't shifting now, it's breaking apart. I thought that was what was happening. Why does everything sound the same in this book? Aurora tells Belle to move. They're vaulting over twisting debris and the air tastes wrong, electric and thick. The air is mentioned 101 times in this 105-page book. Just so you all know, I'm not losing it for no reason. Belle says they have to move faster. Aurora is busy creating something that Belle does not understand. The bond weakened the nightmare, and it could have been nice if that was explained earlier instead of now, because it didn't feel like it did jack shit earlier. Aurora is prying a door out of the nightmare. Before they even leave through the door, the sorceress is back because she could feel the door being open. Duh. She strikes them with magic. It knocks Belle over again, but she tastes blood in her mouth this time. She's like, you're trying to leave me after everything I've given you, Aurora. Belle is struggling to get up when isn't she? The sorceress looks at Belle. Of course, it's not your idea, is it? Her eyes gleamed icy blue, turning luminescent with power. Poor Aurora, always so susceptible to ... influence. You were supposed to go willingly, not drag this little hunter with you. I don't like when you don't listen. What influence? We do not learn nearly enough about the beef between these two characters for her to be saying stuff like this, because it seems to me that Aurora does whatever she wants whenever the fuck she wants. Belle gets hit with more magic. It's very painful, but it's not an attack on her body, it's an attack on the bond. See, I told you that bad bitch would think of something to do about the bond. Belle feels like she's being pulled apart from the inside out. Aurora is screaming her name and is furious. The sorceress is like, LOL, she's so fragile. The blood bond is new, and that's why she can mess with it. She's like, what happens if I break it? I don't know, but I'm rooting for the sorceress at this point. I don't want to because I'm a butch defender, but I wanted this to be over. The ending of this book should have been the sorceress and Belle getting together. Aurora attacks the sorceress back and she's momentarily surprised, but it's not very effective against her. Aurora is trying to get revenge. Belle says she's never seen her like this before, and yeah, you've only known her for 24 hours or less. You've never seen her a lot of ways before. You've never seen her use the bathroom. You've never seen her drop something on the floor and then contemplate eating it. You don't know anything about her. Aurora is now trying to destroy the nightmare around them. The sorceress now looks weary and is like, it's my curse, it's my creation. Aurora says, no, it's mine now. It always was. Well, is it yours now or was it always yours? Let me know. Belle is still not feeling great from the attack on the bond. Aurora is choosing her over the nightmare and herself, and the nightmare can't handle it. Well, the nightmare is rejection sensitive. Cut it some slack. The ground is splitting again and enough. How many times can the ground split? How many? Eventually there's going to be no ground. You can't keep splitting the ground if there's no ground. The sorceress says you can't leave. This is where you belong and this is what you are. Aurora says no, and you never understood what I am. Aurora helps Belle to her feet and says we go now. The sorceress is still trying to drag them back and it separates them. They leap into the light where the opening is supposed to be. The sorceress is pissed because it seemed to work. They break into reality. Yay! Chapter 8, Aurora. The last thing Aurora saw was Belle's hand slip from hers and she gets pulled back into the nightmare. See, the sorceress is semi-competent. The real world now seals back shut and she falls for a very long time until she hits the ground with brutal force. She thinks to herself that she failed again. Yeah, obviously. The sorceress is like, did you really think it would be this easy? Aurora thinks to herself she doesn't have to look up to know who it is. Yeah, no shit. I hate it here. The sorceress is standing above her, lording it over her. Aurora thinks that once she thought she was beautiful, but now she can only see the rot beneath her perfect skin. Aurora pushes herself up and says Belle escaped. The sorceress says yeah, she did, but now she's in the real world unprotected. But you bounced right back like you always will. She says she's gone, you know, and she'll go back to her world and she'll forget about you. One would hope, but we shouldn't hope anymore on this channel. We get nothing we want here. She says you should be grateful I let her go because I could have killed her and she could have made Aurora watch as punishment. Aurora snaps and magic starts crackling in her palms.
Snap, crackle, pop. That's cute.
She tries to use her rage to attack her with magic. It doesn't work. Is that all you have without her? She asked, her head tilting slightly. Interesting. I always wondered if you were actually growing stronger or if it was merely the hunter's influence. Her smile widened. I think we have our answer. I wish there was more negging Aurora. It's the only thing keeping me going at this point. Without Belle, Aurora feels hollow because she doesn't have that fierce will to protect her anymore. I would argue that you never had it. You just didn't want another abuser to hurt her. Only Aurora gets to hurt her. The sorceress begins to villain monologue at us. You have no fight left, little one, she mused, each word falling like a blade. You think you do. You've convinced yourself that you're strong, that you're in control. She paused, her eyes glittering with malice. But that drive, that desperation, that was never about freedom. That was about her. My breath hitched and I hated myself for it. For giving her even that small victory. I lifted my chin, forcing steel into my spine. You know nothing about what drives me, I said, but the words lacked conviction and we both heard it. She stopped circling, watching me carefully, something unreadable in her expression. For a moment the mask slipped and I glimpsed something beneath it. Not quite humanity, but something ... older, hungrier. I should be furious, she said, finally tilting her head. You nearly escaped. You nearly took what was mine. I should tear you apart little by little until there's nothing left but your screams. She tapped one perfect nail against her lower lip, considering. But I think I prefer this. You, broken, defeated. I'm glad this is working for someone because it isn't working for me. Been dry as a bone this whole time. The sorceress says, another century then? I've grown so fond of our little arrangement. And I know an ever after quote when I see one.
I've grown rather fond of our intrigues together. Surely you must know. I'm having an inkling, my lady.
You can't fool me. Aurora is crashed back to reality by these words and she feels like she's right back where she started. She thinks she's glad that Belle escaped though and that maybe that's enough. The sorceress reads the surrender in her eyes. The sorceress tries to open the nightmare to leave, I assume, but nothing happens. The nightmare doesn't move at all. She keeps trying and now she's getting visibly upset that the nightmare won't listen to her. What? ... she whispered, her voice devoid of its usual arrogance, stripped down to something raw and uncertain. What have you done? The nightmare nightmare had rejected me, cast me back from the real world, ... But it had rejected her too. She could not leave. She could not shift reality. We were trapped together in a prison that no longer recognized its jailer. Comprehension bloomed within me like a dark flower, the blood bond between Belle and me, ... It had changed something fundamental about the nightmare itself. The magic that had kept me prisoner for so long was no longer solely under the sorceress's control. It had tasted something new, something different. It had tasted freedom and choice and perhaps even love. I would say good for Aurora, but I don't care about her because she's a artist. The sorceress whirls around to face her and she is furious. She sends magic at Aurora, but before it can even get to her, it shattered like glass, striking stone. Enough with the similes! Enough with the ellipses! Aurora says, looks like you're just as trapped in here as I am. The sorceress says it's temporary and it's a glitch. Glitch doesn't come into the English language consistently until the 1940s, but there are allegedly guns here also, so who knows what time period this is supposed to be similar to. No, I said the word soft but heavy with certainty. It's something else entirely. Gestured to the nightmare around us, to the shadows that now seemed to lean toward me rather than her. I think it's choosing sides. I feel if I keep arguing with this book, we will never be done. So I choose to accept that nightmares can choose sides in a conflict. The sorceress says you can't control it, you don't know how. Aurora says she's lived inside it for a century and she knows everything there is to know about it. And she says Belle has shown her ways to bend it that the sorceress has never imagined. How? When? We weren't there for that. The sorceress says this isn't over, and Aurora agrees and says it's only the beginning. Aurora thinks that she doesn't know if she'll ever get out of the nightmare, but things have changed. The nightmare rejected both of them, but it offered something new. A battlefield where they're both evenly matched.
Sure, Jan.
Aurora ends the chapter knowing she is going to win. Chapter 9, Belladonna. Belle is back in the real world and her lungs burn like she's been drowning. Our girl cannot catch a break. She sees that Aurora isn't there with her. She also sees that there are some wounds on her from the nightmare and that did not go away. This doesn't bother her because the rules between the worlds is not clear or consistent, and I agree with that, yeah. Aurora's body is still there, but she's still comatose. Belle tells her to wake up, but she doesn't stir. Belle thinks to herself the sorceress planned this from the beginning, and I am once again asking, how do you know this? Belle says no, this isn't over, and cradles Aurora in her arms. You know, the girl who assaulted her, that one. Belle is angry and says that the sorceress made a big mistake letting her go. I mean, I think she was totally reasonable thinking that you would just leave. But here we are. Belle can still feel the bond between them, it's just thinner. I leaned over Aurora, studying her face. In the moonlight, she looked almost like she had when I'd first found her. The sleeping beauty untouched by time or pain. But I knew better now. I knew the monster and the woman both, knew the century of suffering that had shaped her into something both terrible and wonderful. She wasn't a princess waiting to be saved. She was a queen who had fought for her freedom, and now I would fight for hers. Why? I don't know why you would still decide to help her other than just you're a good person. You're better than me, that's for sure. Belle whispers, come back to me, and then kisses Aurora. The air electrifies around them, and Belle worries that she fucked up. But then Aurora comes back, gasping against her lips for air. Aurora is awake, yay! This was the most anticlimactic bullshit solution to the curse I could have imagined. It's like the author just got tired of writing this and said, well, here you go. True love's kiss or something. I hate it here. Belle crushes Aurora against her and Aurora says, you came back. Belle says, I told you I wasn't leaving without you. Again, I still don't know why. They cling to each other. Aurora says that she thought it was over after Belle slipped away, and Belle says never. Ick. They pull back and Aurora notices Belle is hurt. Belle says it doesn't matter, but Aurora says it matters to her.
Why did you do it? You're so stupid. Why did you do it?
I had two very good reasons. First, I am replaceable and you are not.
You are not replaceable to me.
Stop stealing scenes straight from my favorite straight movies. Knock it off. Belle says they can tend to it later. They need to get somewhere safe because the sorceress will come for her. Aurora says yes, she will. Belle helps her to her feet. Belle asks her if she can walk, and Aurora says, I'm stronger than I look, Belladonna. Belle says, I know. Okie dokie. I want to be out of this conversation. Do either of you like the same thing? I'm asking sincerely, what do you see in one another? She never thought I would leave, Aurora said suddenly, her voice quiet in the stillness. She believed I was hers completely. I wouldn't want to escape. I glanced at her, but you did. Because of you. She squeezed my hand. You changed everything. You made me remember what it is to want something for myself. What does that mean? You wanted to escape the entire time. Is that not wanting something for yourself? Why are you rewriting history like you're some martyr who's never been allowed to want anything? What are we doing? Belle says that she's going to come for them again. She also says that she's going to pay for what she did to Aurora. I think she was trying to save the general population from Aurora, personally. Aurora agrees, and Belle thinks this battle isn't over. It's just the beginning. You already said that. If I hadn't read this on my tablet, I would have thrown the book. Chapter 10, Aurora. The ruins devour themselves behind them and it's on fire. So, did it devour itself or did you light it on fire? I'm totally fine with arson in this situation. It just seems like you don't know what the ruins are doing. Aurora is happy to see her prison crumble. She says that the sorceress is still in there. The true end came when the sorceress lost control of her own creation, when the nightmare that had been my prison for a century turned against her, when she became as bound to it as I had been. That was when her fate was sealed. A slow smirk curled at the edges of my lips, satisfaction coiling deep in my stomach like a pleased serpent. Let her rot, I whispered, and the words tasted like honey and ash. The manner burned with a ferocity that matched the hatred I'd carried, but Belle and I both knew the truth. Fire alone couldn't contain something that had survived for centuries, feeding on fear and despair. We spent days reinforcing the wards around the blackened ruins, carving ancient sigils into broken stone, finding what remained of her power beneath layers of magic older than either of us. Okay, then why did you burn it down? What was the point of that? Because then they have to use the magic to hold her in place. It takes her 3 days to do this. Again, what was the point of the fire? Do you enjoy breathing in toxic fumes? Belle says if the sorceress tries to break free, they will know. They're now going to leave in a waiting carriage, but where is the carriage from? How did you call the carriage? None of my questions ever get answered. Belle says you don't have to do this alone, and Aurora believes her. Great. They ride back in silence because they have nothing in common. Aurora's kingdom has fallen into decay in her absence. You're telling me no one took up the throne when you died? You had no family who could do it? Don't worry, it was the sorceress who did it. Why would the people just let her do that? Why wouldn't they revolt? Who knows? We then get speed run through what happens next in like 2 paragraphs. The moment we arrived, I took back my throne, not with kindness, not with mercy, but with the cold calculation that had kept me sane in the nightmare. The people cheered when I was announced, but they did not know me. They did not know what I had become, what I had done to survive. They saw only the fairy tale ... The Sleeping Beauty awakened, returned to save them. Belle watched from the side as I made decree after decree, restoring order, claiming lands that had been left to rot, punishing those who had aligned themselves with the sorceress. I was not cruel, but I was not kind. Fear, I had learned, was a more reliable tool than love. The eastern provinces will return to the crown, I announced to my newly appointed council, my voice leaving no room for argument. Those who resist will be removed. Belle never spoke against my methods, but I felt her eyes on me, watching, waiting, wondering how much of me had truly returned from that nightmare. I caught her gaze across the council chamber, a question in the tilt of her head. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I wasn't sure I knew the answer myself. Oh good, she's a tyrant. We love to see it. So glad she just decided to be fully evil. Belle is her constant throughout the whole thing, and Aurora thinks of her as her protector. Why? People may be trying to kill you because you're a tyrant now? Aurora gets reconfirmed as queen 6 weeks after returning. She looks perfect. Some neighboring kingdoms send some people because they're curious, yada yada. Belle stood near the wall because she's uncomfortable with the attention of everyone attending, but she looks super hot. Good for you, girl, but run before you can change your mind. During the after party, a count is lingering too long around Belle and he brushes his arm against her while laughing. Aurora is gonna react totally rationally. She's such a rational and understanding person. Just kidding, she's freaking the hell out. She glides across the floor and hugs Belle from behind, like one of those couples in high school who were waiting in line for things. She asks Belle if she's having fun. The count dips the hell out of there, and I would too. You can't just stake a claim on me like I'm a prized possession, she murmured, but her voice held no real protest, only the warmth of affection. She swatted at my hand but didn't pull away. Can't I? I kept her close, my chin resting on her shoulder. You're the only thing in this kingdom worth having. She turned to face me, her eyes searching mine. There are rumors. she said quietly, about us, about how you were saved. You haven't given them a story, so they make one up, or so I presume. Oh look, Belle kind of trying to set some boundaries. Does Aurora care about that? No. There are rumors that the sorceress hired Belle and that she had never meant for Belle to save her, except it's not a rumor. It's literally true. Belle just didn't know that. I don't know why it matters either, because she did save her. Who gives a shit at this point? Unless they're mad because now they have a tyrant queen again. Aurora says let them talk. They don't understand what we survived. Belle agrees. The rest of the evening she's keeping Belle close and more people touch her or at least try to. And we're acting like this is Belle's fault for some reason, but okay. Aurora kisses her knuckles in front of one of these people. Woo. Belle is not loving this behavior. Aurora justifies this by thinking that Belle has never tried to really stop her. Yeah, you're the queen. She's just some person. How's she going to stop you? By asking? You've already shown that you don't care about her words in the slightest. Aurora says let them all know that you're mine. Puke emoji. Aurora says if you let one more person touch you, I'll drag you into the middle of the floor and show them who you belong to. I think you can see where this is going. Also, let? Excuse me? Maybe punish some handsy noblemen. Belle says you wouldn't dare, and Aurora's like, it's a promise, don't test me. Belle says I don't belong to anyone, but it lacked conviction. Yeah, because you've worn her down for the entire book. Aurora says we both know that's not true. An hour later, some woman touches her elbow and Aurora snaps. She comes and grabs Belle and pulls her into an embrace. She tells her she's going to show them exactly who she belongs to and that they need to know loud and clear. Belle starts to protest, but Aurora spins her around and pins her arms behind her back. The room falls silent because like what else do you even do when your monarch is pulling this BS? I want to make something perfectly clear, I announced, my voice carrying across the hushed room. Belladonna Moreau is mine. Not a guest to be entertained, not a contract to be negotiated, not a prize to be won. Mine. Belle's breathing was shallow, her body tense against mine, but she didn't say the word that would stop me. Instead, she tilted her head back, exposing more of her throat to my touch, ... A surrender that sent fire through my veins. Anyone who touches her, I continued, my fingers tracing patterns on Belle's skin that made her shiver. Anyone who attempts to take what is mine will answer to me. Are you tired? Are you tired of this? I just want to be done with this nightmare of a book. Also, the word that would let you say the word that would get you to stop, there is no word that would get you to stop. You do whatever the fuck you feel like. Everyone is shocked because this is a coronation for all intents and purposes. Aurora doesn't care that she's causing a scandal. She releases Belle's arms, but she keeps her close. She then turns her to face her. Belle says you're impossible, but smiles a tiny bit. Aurora announces very loudly that she's the queen and queens take what they want. Again, tyrant. Everyone is stuck in this ballroom. Belle says that was completely unnecessary. Her voice is rough with desire. If you say so, I don't believe you though. That was completely unnecessary, she said, but her voice was rough with desire. I smiled, tracing the line of her jaw. Was it? Yes. She kissed me hard and demanding. I was never theirs to take. Say it, I whisper against her lips. Belle pulled back just enough to meet my gaze, her golden eyes fierce and tender all at once. I'm yours, she said. I have been since the moment I found you in that nightmare. This doesn't make Aurora feel any better though because she's absolutely mental. She says, and I'm yours. But she still decides that everybody needs to know how far she will go to prove Belle was hers. Chapter 11, Belladonna. Hey, this chapter has assault in it. I don't care what the author is labeling it as. That's what it is. I'm warning you now so that you can jump ship. Take care of yourself. I care about you. I'm going to try to put a timestamp so you can skip this, okay? Belle sees Aurora's eyes narrowing and she knows she's in trouble. Belle tries to talk to Aurora, but she doesn't answer. In the background, people are trying to make polite conversation, probably trying to ignore this absolute mess. Aurora drags Belle to the front of the grand hall. Belle asks what she's doing, and Aurora says she's changed her mind. She's going to teach them a lesson about boundaries. That's rich coming from you. No one was ... This isn't ... They weren't. The words died in my throat as I felt it. The first whisper of her shadow magic unfurling in the air around us. Dark tendrils, substantial as silk but black as starless night, slithered from the corners of the room. I tried to step back, but Aurora stood firm behind me, one hand on my shoulder, the other now tangled in my hair. You're mine, Belladonna, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent hall. And it seems some of our guests need a reminder of that fact, so I intend to show them so there's no question. Belle doesn't get any more into this, by the way. Aurora has the shadows bind her up, and Belle starts begging her not to. She says that Aurora is overreacting, and yeah, I agree. Aurora says silence. See, this is such a gross power imbalance, and I don't like it. The shadow ropes tighten, and Belle keeps trying to beg her to stop. Aurora, I tried again. Desperation creeping into my voice. I don't want anyone else. I never did. It's only been you since the moment I found you. A small smile played at the corner of her perfectly painted lips. I know that, my love. This isn't about what you want. Her gaze swept over the assembly. It's about what they think they can have. I genuinely hate this. I truly, truly do. Belle is now exposed because it's like spreading her apart. She's begging Aurora because they are in a room full of dignitaries and ambassadors. Aurora says all the more reason for them to understand. She announces to the crowd that Belle is her savior and her possession, and that she belongs to her body and soul. And since you're all so interested in touching what is mine, Belle is glad that she still has clothes on, but Aurora seems to read her mind and says she thinks she'll show everyone exactly what they can't have. Belle begs her again not to do this. Aurora does not care and says, you never quite understood what you unleashed, did you? I hate this bitch. I am ready to fist fight her myself. This is sick and I hate it. Some twisted part of me loved this. Loved that she was jealous enough, possessive enough to claim me so publicly. After bringing her back from the nightmare realm, after breaking the curse that had held her for a century, I'd sometimes wondered if I'd just been a means to an end. If the connection I felt was one-sided, a hunter's obsession with the prey that had become her savior. But this ... this was proof. Territorial, excessive, inappropriate proof, but proof nonetheless. Just because there is a twisted part of her that loves this doesn't mean that she consented. And it also doesn't mean that this is dubcon. Here is the definition of dubcon. Dubcon, short for dubious consent, is a term used in fanfiction and certain genres of romance to describe a sexual scenario where consent is unclear, questionable, or complicated by factors like intoxication, coercion, manipulation, or power imbalances, rather than being a clear yes or no. Unlike non-con, non-consensual sex, or CNC, consensual non-consent, which is a pre-planned role play, dubcon involves a situation where a person's ability to consent is compromised, but they may still express some degree of desire or acquiesce during the act. Belle said no. So it is not dubcon, nor is it CNC. It is R with a capital R. The author does not know the difference between crimes and spice. If it had been labeled appropriately, I would not have been nearly this angry. She's saying all of these things are hers as she leaves nothing but shredded clothes behind. Everyone in the room is shocked, and I would like to actually go out on a limb here and say if you start doing sexual things in a room full of people who don't consent, that is assault. It's assault on all of them. These bystanders are being tortured also. Aurora decides to show them how she touches her, and I truly don't understand this. I really don't. I get scenes where someone gets jealous and they rush back into private and they have some jealousy-fueled spice, but this is just making her a sexual object to all of them. The only thing keeping them from doing anything and going further is fear, and that clearly was not enough before. They were still touching her anyway. Aurora says if you need to breathe, snap your fingers. Yeah, this is not consensual, so I don't like this being inserted like she has any real say about anything. We're going to skip most of this because I can't go into detail. It's abhorrent, honestly. She gags her with like one of the shadow tendrils and starts doing awful things that I'm sure you can imagine. She says she's not going to stop until Belle finishes in front of all of them. Belle shakes her head and says no. She really doesn't want to do that because it's too personal. So then we get this. I shook my head as much as the constraints would allow. No, not that, not here. Owing in front of all these people was too intimate, too personal, too ... mine, ours. No, Aurora raised an eyebrow, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. You think you have a choice? I'll make you come whether you want to or not. Your pleasure belongs to me, remember? I fucking hate this book. I wish I hadn't read it. It's sickening. And again, I like horror. What about this is fun? We weren't even warned properly. She gets off in front of everyone, but does Aurora stop? No. Nope, she keeps going until she gets off multiple times and squirts. Great. Belle literally thinks about this as a relentless assault because that's what it is. Belle doesn't know how long it lasts. Aurora tells Belle that if she lets another touch her again, the punishment she'll give will make this one look like a gentle caress. Fucking disgusting. I cannot stand this. Aurora then confesses that she loves Belle, and I disagree. She says she promises she will always protect what's hers, and I don't want to be here anymore. No thanks. Aurora kisses her in front of everyone, and Belle starts to lose consciousness. Are you serious right now? Belle thinks to herself that she would follow Aurora anywhere. You're just traumatized. You need to run as far as you can and never look back. It ends with a link to this scene drawn out in Patreon, but no fucking thank you. Absolutely not. Conclusion. Sake. Honestly, I think that we need to examine what we're encouraging in the dark romance space. I think that dark romance could be good, but I can't support this shit. There is no point of trigger warnings if they are not accurate. I firmly hate this, and I really would not read anything else from this author unless you guys paid me to do it. This book was a huge waste of my time and a waste of internet storage space as a whole. It also focused way too much on the wrong things. I would only recommend this book to someone if I hated them. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars on Storygraph, but I feel like that's being generous now. I might go back and change it. I don't know yet. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Please leave a knife emoji if you've made it this far and tell me what you thought of this book. Have you read it? Please tell me. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to have an amazing weekend because I am going to try to never think about this book again. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!